What's Michael Avenatti's prison strategy? The guy really needs a prison strategy. You know, over the past several years, we've all become familiar with Avenatti, and he's always outlining a strategy. He's got his Trump takedown strategy, and then he outlined his Nike shakedown strategy, and then his Oval Office strategy about how he was going to run for president. And now he needs a prison strategy. And this prison strategy may involve, when it is safe, to pick up the soap. Now, this guy Avenatti, I mean, when I first read about this, I was laughing my head off. And I was laughing my head off at this idea that Avenatti was crying during his sentence. It's horrible. I'm going to prison. I thought I was going to send Trump to prison, but actually it ends up being me who's, in handcuffs. So I was crying too with laughter. I was crying with amusement. And then I immediately went to Brian Stelter's feed because Brian Stelter, a.k.a. my dad, my 35-year-old dad. Anyway, this guy was talking up Avenatti. Oh, you're such a celebrity. You're such a star. Well, Trump was kind of a star, so, I can see a path for you to the White House. This guy, Stelter is, as to quote Trump himself, dumb as a rock. But nevertheless, I thought, let's go to his feed and see what he's saying about Avenatti now. Nothing. Dead silent. Not a word. So this Avenatti was a media celebrity, as you remember. He was, there he is at the White House Correspondents' Dinner in 2018. He was on the red carpet at the MTV Awards. He was speculating about dropping into the Democratic primaries and even touted as a Democratic presidential candidate. Why? Because he was seen as the guy who's really giving it to Trump. And of course, he was the lawyer representing Stormy Daniels, and accusing Trump of having paid hush money to Daniels. Now, later it turned out that Daniels said that this was sort of Avenatti's idea to file a defamation suit against Trump. Wasn't her idea. She didn't want to do it. But he sort of kind of conned her into it, you might say. And then interestingly, he defrauded her. And what I mean by that is that what happened was he negotiated an $800,000 advance for her memoir called Full Disclosure. And it turned out that he embezzled some of that money, diverting $300,000 of it to his own account. And this is basically Avenatti's kind of modus operandi. He's a crook. The case involving Nike, which, by the way, frankly, I'm not sorry about, that he's shaking down Nike. Big deal. Who cares? This is a kind of multi-billion-dollar corporation. Let them fight it out, if you will, in civil court. But essentially what happened was that Avenatti was representing one of the basketball stars that Nike had been dealing with, and he was essentially saying to Nike, listen, if you don't pay me, I will ruin your image and destroy your market value as a corporation because, hey, I've got a massive social media following. I'm a celebrity. I can go on TV and bash you guys. So it was a shakedown operation. And the Nike lawyers were like, oh, we'll get back to you. We'll get back to you. And they called the FBI. So this is how this guy ends up in court. But as you get into it, as the government looked into the Avenatti case, it turns out that this guy's a really bad guy. And it's not just about Nike. He represented, for example, a guy, Jeffrey Johnson, who is a paraplegic. And Jeffrey Johnson won a $4 million settlement. And Avenatti took some of his money. So Avenatti essentially doesn't just try to shake down companies on the other side. He rips off his own clients. This is what makes him really the lowest of the low. I just want to read a couple of sentences from the government's charging document because it kind of shows you, at least from the government's point of view, and Avenatti was found guilty. So let's look at what they say. They say, defendant's scheme to defraud these victim clients was simple. First, he would negotiate on behalf of the client a settlement that would require the payment of funds to the client. Then, he would misrepresent, conceal, and falsely describe to the client the true terms of the settlement and or the disposition of the settlement proceeds. Next, he would cause the settlement proceeds to be deposited into a bank account that the defendant, Avenatti, controlled. He would then embezzle and misappropriate settlement proceeds to which he was not entitled. And finally, he would lull the client to prevent the client from discovering his embezzlement and misappropriation by falsely denying that the settlement proceeds had been paid. So this guy would be like, this guy has a future in the mafia. But he can't. He's not available right now because he's got 2.5 years to look over his shoulder when he picks up the soap. So I couldn't be happier about this. I mean, there are guys in prison who don't deserve to be there. There are guys that the government targets. I think in this case, it couldn't be more well deserved, and therefore I offer prison best wishes to Michael Avenatti.